Ladies and gentlemen, drivers, gig workers, and everyone in between. Welcome to This Week in Rideshares podcast. I'm your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Friday, March 10th, and this week, Uber aids air travel, drivers get a raise, and Alto keeps growing. Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And of course, from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney, Bryant Greening. Bryant, welcome back.
Welcome back, Jared. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And this is, this is a happy Friday, snowy Friday, but a lot of good news for a change in rideshare, which is, you don't see that often in the news.
It's nice to see it. It's not often that we're cheery on these Friday afternoons, but I think I think we've got some positive news to share.
We do. And we will start with Monday, which is kind of a more lighthearted story. This is, Uber drivers reveal their pet peeves, and this is from Auto Blog, and they added, are you always late to your Uber, less than polite to drivers? You ask them to stop at drive-thrus? You may not like it, but you could be an Uber driver's worst nightmares. So the article goes to talk about the top 5 things that most Uber drivers truly dislike that passengers do. Number 1 is being rude, obviously. Number 2, which I totally get this is requesting stops at drive-thrus or convenience stores. Number 3 is not tipping. Number 4 is arriving late. And 5 is no-go zones. So, Brian, how many of these have you broken? Any of them?
I try to be a pretty good passenger, and I try to be conscientious of people's time. I am sure that there have been times where I have maybe slammed the door a little too hard, and occasionally maybe don't get the 5 stars that I think I deserve.
Right. You try to be good, but it happens. I think personally for me, I know this for a fact. The stopping, I have friends who and I feel bad for the drivers, and drivers, please let us know, how big of an issue this is, but it's the stop thing. And my friends are always like, listen, like, oh yeah, the Uber will like totally stop and like grab food, or like I got a quick run. And I know, they're burning gas, they're burning money. It's not, and a lot of times this isn't a requested stop on the app. It's just simply they go, hey, pull over. And some drivers I've had have been like, hey, no problem. And anyone who says that, I instantly tip the highest I can. Because I understand that they're going out of their way to do that. So I appreciate it. There has been a few times I've actually missed my Uber and Lyft. I overcompensated and totally or overestimated and missed it.
Yeah, I think the thing that everybody just needs to keep in mind is that this is somebody's job, and you don't want to waste their time. You want to respect their property. Do to others as you want done unto yourself, and everything will go well. So, just don't be rude. I think the top thing on that list is just like be kind. And if you're kind, everybody's going to have a better experience.
Yeah, exactly. Could not agree more. Simple stuff, guys. Don't be rude. All right, let's head into Tuesday. Uber, and I actually love this. I'm very excited for this. Uber makes getting a ride from the airport a little easier. This is from Engadget. Uber is introducing a few new updates that can streamline trips to and from the airports. Most notably, you'll get walking directions for the pickup location and the ETAs for baggage claims, so you know if you need to hustle to get a ride quickly or take your time collecting your bags. The other thing Uber is doing, this is Uber Reserve, will also be more useful for scheduling your ground travel. The company now allows booking rides up to 90 days in advance instead of 30. And soon they're going to have walking ETAs, which will be available in over 400 airports. And the business comfort option will be available sometime in the near future. I am like super excited about this. It's probably the first time in a long time I've been so excited about an update from an Uber app. But when you're flying different countries and finding the pickup, and it's for both of us, it's frustrating, right? The passenger and the driver.
Oh, it's such a hassle. The airport is, that's one area where rideshare, I feel like, had fallen behind the taxi industry. I really loved the taxi line. You know where to walk. You know that you could stand there, get in your car, and be on your way. And I felt like rideshare added a lot of extra time when you were, waiting for the rideshare to come up and then trying to locate each other. And the fact that they're going to try to ease that process, I think, is one, a little late. I wish they would have done it earlier, but two, very well received because I'm excited for the ease and the efficiency.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of airports I've been to, both domestically, internationally, where those stops and those spots for the Uber and Lyft are temporary and they move around, so you never quite know where to go. And hopefully, this app will address that. So yeah, I'm thrilled. I cannot wait that this actually happens. So that's great. Let's move to Wednesday. Drivers in Boston are pushing to unionize. And this is from NBC Boston. They reported, quote, a group of about 30 ride-hailing drivers gathered in front of the State House Tuesday to push lawmakers to pass a bill that would grant such workers the right to unionize. This bill is known as the Rideshare Drivers Justice Bill, and the act was filed by a lead sponsor, Representative Flack Moran, and it goes into explain what they would get out of this. The key here is it would grant drivers access to collective bargaining rights, discrimination protection, aka deactivations, unemployment insurance, paid sick time, and guaranteed minimum wage. All good stuff, Brian.
Yeah, it is, and this one's a little more serious than the last two articles that we've talked about. It's important that rideshare drivers are standing up for their rights, and I know that there are differences of opinions as to whether drivers want to be employees or not employees, or whether they should form a formal union or not. But the bottom line is there needs to be some basic protections. There needs to be assurances that people can make enough money to survive, that they are not losing money in this proposition, and that they have basic employment rights. By that I mean that you can't just be thrown to the wayside and without any sense of due process or any right to challenge a negative action against you. So seeing that drivers are standing up for themselves, using their collective voices to gain more rights and a better, safer worker environment, that's great. And I hope that we see more of these uprisings and more of these types of benefit structures popping up nationwide.
Yeah, I feel like it's just common sense all around, good for truly both parties. I think these aren't insane demands. I totally agree with you. It needs to be. This needs to continue to happen around the country, and I think the overall mood of both drivers and just the brand of Uber itself will increase. So happy that this is happening and needs to keep happening. And more good news, actually. So Thursday, Uber and Lyft drivers get a pay increase. This is from Cranes, New York. They reported, quote, the city's Taxi and Limousine Commission approved a roughly 9% pay increase compared to last year's rates for drivers. And this is following a legal fight with Uber that blocked a similar raise from taking effect in December. So basically, minimum pay increases to the per mile and per minute rates means that a 7.5 mile trip or 30-minute trip will result in a base fare of $26.76 for drivers. So the raise is an increase of about $2.16 or 8.78. Now, what's interesting about this too is in an email, a spokesperson for Uber called the new pay rules, quote, more reasonable than what was previously proposed. So they, or a representative from Lyft also agreed. So interesting, both sides came together, and for once, Uber and Lyft aren't saying this is crazy and fighting it. Unbelievable.
Yeah, obviously we're happy to see the pay increase. Drivers deserve to make a living wage, and oftentimes, the expenses eat up so much of the money that there's just not much left to go around. So given the fact that everything costs more right now, given the fact that the New York government had promised a raise, we're glad to see that there's more money going into the drivers' pockets. I am a little skeptical of Uber's response because this is much less than what was originally promised, and they fought really hard to take away the big raise that the New York Taxi Commission had promised to drivers. So in a lot of ways, this is kind of a compromise, and it could be seen as a win for Uber, in certain lenses. So kind of in summary, great to see that the drivers are making more money. That is never a bad thing. But I would like to see that the raises keep going up, and maybe Uber not standing in the way so much when drivers are promised raises, and then ultimately have those taken away.
Do you think Uber might try to fight this? Like they're saying, are you okay with it now? And hey, we're going to fight it.
They could, because anytime Uber looks at a proposition where it's going to possibly hurt their bottom line, they tend to hire lawyers and they tend to fight like crazy. So, the fact that they're coming out right now and saying that they're happy with this, that gives me hope that they won't challenge this, because they don't have to come out in support of it. They don't have to talk it up. But you never know. And we've certainly seen things like this play out in the court system. And oftentimes Uber tends to get its way.
Yeah, that's true. Well, in a really night and day situation here, we're going to wrap up with Friday. While Uber and Lyft, fight drivers and often struggle to make a profit, Alto keeps growing. And this is from Forbes. They reported, founded in 2018, Alto has survived the COVID-19 pandemic, the car shortage, high pricing, as well as the challenges of a startup taking on a dominant industry player. We met some of the Alto team and saw its vehicles at a recent conference in LA. The company says that the key differentiator is that unlike the other rideshare companies, its drivers are W-2 employees who are interviewed, background checked, and personally trained. The company also describes its pricing as a service model as a black car, in the sense that its vehicles are standardized, drivers are employees, and vehicles will arrive reliably, especially when pre-booked. And he also goes on to explain, the key is consistency, and the problem with an Uber Lyft is you don't know if you're getting on a JetBlue airline or Spirit airline. And with Alto Rideshare, it's always the same experience.
Yeah, we know the Alto guys. We've worked with Will in the past, and I like the service that they're offering. It's an alternative. Certainly, it doesn't have the same convenience, I don't think, as in Uber or Lyft, the rideshare touch of a button type ride request. But the fact that these cars are available and that you can feel comfortable with the vehicle that you're getting into, that the drivers are taken care of. The drivers tend to be happy because they know what they're walking home with every day. I think it can be seen as a safer experience for everybody, perhaps a little bit more accountability, and also, the background checks, I think, are a little stronger and more thorough. So, at the end of the day, I think it's a nice alternative, and we're happy to see that they're growing. We're proud to see how far they've come over the years, as we've kind of grown up at the same time in vertical paths.
Yeah, I remember we were talking to Will, and I remember we were striking up a conversation about, he just sort of had mentioned that he's not too concerned about growing quickly. He's quite happy with the momentum he had, and it's paying off in spades, really. And I think what's funny is, if you had proposed this to Uber and Lyft, they would say that model's impossible. Like, no one could ever run a business like that, and no one wants that. And then here's a guy who, 5 years ago started it, and he's slowly climbing up. He's not trying to do what they're doing, but it's like you said, it's paying off. The drivers are happy. It's a safer experience. It's all around a good thing. So, hats off to Will.
Yeah, we were talking before the show started just about how it's not a new concept. Will kind of zagged while everybody else went the other direction. When rideshare came out and everybody was so inclined to go with the Uber and Lyft model, Uber said, hey, why this thing that we have that's already working, this kind of black car service, can be improved upon. And that's where I think he really succeeded, was he saw that there were some flaws in the current system, and rather than destroying it, he made some obvious changes and modernized it a bit. So, I think it was really smart, and it was a zig when everybody else was zagging, and it looks like it's paying off.
Yeah, no, exactly. You nailed it. So I will, as always, I'll give you the last word here before we sign off for the weekend.
Yeah, just as before we start the weekend, I want to remind everybody that Legal Rideshare is always here for free consultations for any accident and injury claim. So if you're out driving around this weekend and you get rear-ended, or somebody causes you an injury or property damage, you reach out to us, and we would be happy to offer free advice as to the best way to maximize your insurance claim, the best way to ensure that any medical treatment gets paid for, lost wages recovered, and all other damages that you sustain are taken care of. So you can reach us at help@legalrideshare.com. All of our contact information is on our website, legalrideshare.com, and we are always available and happy to assist.
Yeah, and again, drivers, gig workers, if you have any stories, any input on what we just discussed, especially with the pet peeves there, please let us know. Email us at help@legalrideshare.com. And I would just love to hear what you guys think, because it's interesting. But yes, thank you, Bryant. And as I like to end every show, that is the end of this week in Rideshare. See you next week.